because some of the pistachios were flying everywhere when you tried to chop them up. Clearly that was my user error, but that's okay. And next we are going to be adding in the flour here. And next to the flour is some granulated sugar there. And of course, when I do link her website or her YouTube channel, it's probably going to be the link to the recipe that I add on this video. That will have all of the measurements there for you, and you can of course use this scone base with any other flavors that you'd like. If you would prefer a flavor without the rose and maybe with some other sort of fruit added in, should you desire that, you can do that. But I love that making scones is 100% one bowl. You don't need to do separate dry ingredients because, quite frankly, as we are going to see very soon, you mix both the flour and sugar together and then you just add the butter right on in. And then after you get the butter in there, all of the other wet ingredients will follow. The only thing I will say with making scones, however, being that it was my first attempt, and I would say successful, I was quite nervous about how delicate I was being with the handling of the dough. I understand that as you are kneading it and as you mix it together, it's considered less tender the more that you essentially knead it and the more that you are touching I just recorded this entire voiceover and it wasn't actually recording. That brings me to our next line of conversation. I edited this entire video and it got ruined. Now I'm gonna add in the almond extract here. But back to my story. I was using my usual editing app, which is already terrible. And if I get off of it and stop editing it, it will glitch out and then it'll repeat a bunch of clips and it's all ruined. So that's exactly what happened, and that was my last straw, you guys. That was the last straw of that editing app. And so I got a new one, which I am using currently, and I enjoy it more, I do. But I'm still trying to navigate it and become familiar with what it looks like while I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do. Turns out I clicked the play button and not the continue voiceover button. And so I was talking to my microphone for no reason at all. So that's awesome. Also, do you see that heavy whipping cream? Someone shook the carton. Someone who shakes a heavy whipping cream carton, you guys. I don't know. But I'm going to find who did it. And if I don't, I'm still gonna blame someone in my house because someone shook it. Like, I literally just recently bought that. The expiration date was like a month and a half off of the day that I made this. Someone shook it, so I had cold foam in a carton. That's what I had. Anyways, it's still you can still use it. So I just wanted to complain about that. When don't I complain about something? But now you are just going to mix the dough until it slightly comes together, until you notice drizzle the icing over itself, it forms little ribbons that take a second to settle back into its shape. So you'll see here the texture that you would want to go for. And you're about to see the spill. Yep. A whole bottle of almond extract. Oh my gosh. But accidents happen. And I told myself that. I was okay with it. Things happen, and anyways, things happen, accidents happen, no worries, you guys, no worries. So now we're going to add the icing into our piping bag. You can use a Ziploc bag, just turn it sideways and flip it over. You could also drizzle it over with like a spoon or a fork if you wanted to, but this is going to give you the control that you want because it's maybe a little bit too thick for you to properly drizzle it over. So I recommend that you use the bag. That way you can also create the cute little drizzle effect just for the aesthetic. And unfortunately, I did not record the first half. I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. And so you're only going to see me decorate these little 3, I believe, but that is okay. And you can see there, I do cover it fully. You can of course make the drizzle smaller if you'd like less frosting, but I feel like a request for less, oh my gosh, frosting is quite crazy on these because it's very delicious, but I understand that a lot of people do enjoy scones as a slightly less sweet treat as compared to all of the other desserts that you can have access to. But I think they're very beautiful, light green color, and I figured I could include a little bit more of the humming, which is closer to my real experience of baking. I don't know what it is. I think I grew up hearing my sister hum and just sing, and it was so calming to me, almost as if that in itself was ASMR. And so some people said that they also found it to be calming and comforting, and so that makes me happy to know that it is also a calming thing for other people too. So I will include that just a little bit as well. But I don't want to annoy you guys to sleep, so not too much. But I think decorating these sort of added those final little touches that were very beautiful.